Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribadadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribadadhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiyara Banachari Yamuna Tiyara Banachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Astater Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Astater Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavini Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki. Jagannath Subhadra Balaram Ki. Yamuna Mai Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Tulsi Devi Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki. ISKCON South Africa Ki. Temple of the Vedic Planetarium Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. I was thinking it sounds funny when Jai Sachinandana is singing Jai Sachinandana, but we're all the dasas. So even if someone's name is Hare Krishna, when they're singing Hare Krishna, they're not calling themselves, right? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So what verse you have on the sheet there? 80. You already read 79? So shall we start with text 80? Okay. Tasmin Abhidyayati Vishvam Atmano Dvaram Nirutyasum Ananyaya Diya Loka Niruchavasa Nipidita Prisham Sa Loka Pala Saranam Yayur Harim Tasmin Adibiyate Vishvam Atmano Dvaram Nirudasham Ananyaya Diya Loka Niruchavasa Nipidita Prisham Salokapala Saranam Yayor Harim Tasmin Tasmin yati vishvam atmano. My brain is struggling a little today, so excuse me. Dvaram nirudasyam anyayadiya. Loka niruchavasa nipidita brisham. Salokapala saranam yayorbharim. Tasmin adi diyayati vishvam atmano. Dvaram nirudasham anyaya diya. Loka niruchavasa nipidita prisham. Salokapala saranam yayorharim. Repeat. Dvaram nirudasyam ananyayadiya. Loka nibidita brisham. Salokapala saranam yayorharim. Tasmin adi vishvam atmano. Dvaram nirudasyam ananyayadiya. Loka nirvasa nipiti Salokapala saranam yayorharim. Ladies? I can't hear you. Tasmin adibiyati. Tasmin, Dhruva Maharaj, Abid Yayati, when meditating with full concentration, Vishvam Atmana, the total body of the universe, Dvaram, the holes, Niruja, closed, Asum, the life air, Anyaya, without being diverted, Diya, meditation, Loka, all the planets, Niruchavasa, having stopped breathing, Nipidita, thus being suffocated, Brisham, very soon, Salokapala, all the demigods from different planets, Saranam, shelter, Yayu, took, harem, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods in all the planetary systems felt suffocated and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Repeat after me. When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods in all the planetary systems felt suffocated and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. When hundreds of persons are sitting in an airplane, although they remain individual units, they each share in the total force of the airplane, which runs at thousands of miles per hour. Similarly, when unit energy is identified with the service of the total energy, the unit energy becomes as powerful as the total energy. As explained in the previous verse, Dhruva Maharaj, because of his spiritual advancement, became almost the total heaviness, and thus he pressed down the whole earth. Moreover, by such spiritual power, his unit body became the total body of the universe. And thus, when he closed the holes of his unit body to firmly concentrate his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the units of the universe, namely all the living entities, including the big demigods, felt the pressure of suffocation, as if their breathing were being choked. Therefore, they all took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they were perplexed as to what had happened. The example of Dhruva Maharaj's closing the holes of his personal body, and thereby closing the breathing holes of the entire universe, clearly indicates that a devotee, by his personal devotional service, can influence all the world, all the people of the whole world, to become devotees of the Lord. If there is only one pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, he can change the total consciousness of the world into Krishna consciousness. This is not very difficult to understand if we study the behavior of Dhruva Maharaj. Om Ajnana Timranya Saganagana Salakaya Chaksuran Midatanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So several things are interesting here. Which of you has perfected this so that you close the holes in the body and you can affect the whole universe? Just because it's possible doesn't mean that it can happen, right? Just like it's possible to have electric service all day long, isn't it? But it doesn't seem to be quite working out now. But it is possible, isn't it? Must be. It's been done before, right? Wasn't it? So in the same way, just because it isn't happening with most people doesn't mean a pure devotee can't do this. And this shows something that Krishna says there's 4 kinds of people who approach him. Those who are in distress, those desirous of wealth, those who are inquisitive, and those who are in search of knowledge of the absolute truth. And Dhruva Maharaj was searching for wealth. When he couldn't sit on the lap of his father because his stepmother, I tell people I had a stepmother like Saruchi and an uncle like Dhritarashtra, and people that know the stories, that explains everything to them. I don't have to go into more detail. Oh, Jai Satchidananda is writing down all my mistakes. He's going to need more paper. So he went there. He said when his stepmother said he couldn't sit on his father's lap, he told his mother, I want a kingdom better than my father's, Maharaj Uttanapad, better than my grandfather, who was Swayambhuva Manu, the first person in the creation, and better than my great-grandfather, who was Brahma, the demigod, who does the secondary creation. There's Sarga, creation, and Visarga, secondary. The Sarga is done by Lord Vishnu, and the Visarga is done by Lord Brahma. These are some of the 10 subjects that are mentioned in the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Sarga and the Visarga and the Niruddha, and ultimately to Atmani Vedanam, that there's the 10 subjects that are discussed, as starting with creation and the secondary creation. So he wants a kingdom better than all of those. But when he is going to approach Lord Vishnu, the thing is, Krishna is pavitram, he is purifier. It's like if you go to the fire wanting something else, if you put a piece of paper in the fire thinking it will illuminate the paper, it still catches it on fire. So when we come, fire can burn other things, because Krishna is pavitram, or purifying. Just by approaching him, he can purify us. That's why we don't need to know how it works. Just like there's the places there where the rats go in and they eat the poison. They don't need to know how the rat poison works, do they? But if they eat it, they'll be affected. The thing they use is blood thinners, same things they give to people who have heart problems. But hopefully they don't, and then they eat so much of it, their blood thins and they bleed to death inside. So they don't need to know how this works, or they don't need to check on the internet to see what it says, or the ingredients of the rat trap and what to do. Just by taking it, it automatically works. So just by us tasting prasadam, or reading the literatures, or chanting the holy names, the effect is there. Of course, the more we do it in knowledge, the effect is even greater. But the effect is still there. And Dhruva Maharaj became a pure devotee. And this is why we promote the pure devotee. It's like Jai Sachinandan is singing Jai Sachinandan. Or someone's name may be Prabhupada, but they're Prabhupada Das. We don't consider ourselves important. Just like you see when we're doing the Tulsi Puja in the morning, before someone offers the incense to Tulsi, what do? What? Achaman, after that. They show it to Prabhupada, so that Prabhupada can assist, because we are offering it. That is why we offer it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada offers it to Krishna. That's why we don't have to, if you're giving a plate of prasadam to Srila Prabhupada, you don't have to offer it to Krishna first. Quite often when they give a plate to Prabhupada, they put the tulsi leaves on the side, because you don't offer the spiritual master tulsi leaves, and because it is considered that he offers it to Krishna. So this is the whole idea, is that we're serving the spiritual master, and he is serving Krishna. Is it 6? Is it okay for people to chant 4 rounds? It is. We have what we do sometimes in the Bhakti Vriksha groups, which we consider might be good for South Africa, because they do it in places like the Middle East where you can't have big functions and the people don't want to travel far, so you can have a few people over in your house, and they give people a ceremony if they chant 1 round. They can sometimes, Jayapataka Swami does this during the initiation. They get a shiksha ceremony where they've agreed to chant 4 rounds or 8 rounds. So we can have this where people agree to chant 1 round, 4 rounds, 8 rounds. But we don't call this an initiation. It's just like when you finish the elementary school, you finished it, but you don't get a college degree. But you might have some kind of graduation. Same thing from high school. There's a high school graduation, but you don't get a college degree, but you might get a high school diploma. So we can award people who want to do the things, but it isn't the same as initiation. Because the difference is, if it's a shiksha ceremony, they can go back on that. And we can decide at some points in life, like during the COVID in Vrindavan, I was doing 64 rounds. Now I'm spending time reading and mixing with devotees and giving some classes. When I was all alone, I could do that. But we have to keep up with at least the 16. And we find some people may chant 64 rounds, but when there isn't all the things going on, there's much more time. When we don't go to Mangal Artik, and you're not at the Tulsi Puja, then you come back and you wonder if you remember the mantras. I notice even Jai Sachinandan is looking at them, because sometimes we get this fear that we won't remember them in order. And sometimes we sing them by ourselves, but we just sing them straight through. It's not like one line and then people respond, and then the next line, and after that you're wondering, well, will I be able to sing this so that I can remember it? Plus, as age goes on, the brain gets a little more. I'm finding it more challenging to remember things. It's not impossible, but it's more challenging to put the things together because I'm having some sleep issues, and I'm not the great devotee that many of you are. My story here wasn't that I was some great devotee who came to liberate South Africa. I wasn't like Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta, but I came to bring the torch. I didn't set the fire, but I brought the torch. And Prabhupada said he was very pleased at the responsibility I've taken. So, we may not have big responsibilities, but we have some of them. I felt I was so thankful that I stayed on during those months because it was difficult. I didn't know who was going to kill me first, the security police, or many Africans didn't like whites because whites would mistreat the Africans, so they would be angry at me just because I was white. And so I was in danger from many kinds of people. But when I see all the nice devotees like you, like when I saw Sukumari and Vrindavan running off to go visit the temple and chanting so enthusiastically, I thought it made it worthwhile for me to stay and do that. And I feel a little guilty today when I'm having trouble with keeping my health going right. I used to go to the evening namhatas, which they only have a few of, but I figured it's better I stay on course and try to go to bed early enough so I can go to Mangalarti, because it's better for sleep to try to be regulated. Some people like Tukaram in Laguna, he's very, very strong constitution and he's very strong spiritually, and he can stay out late. They have an ashram in Long Beach, which is like maybe 60 kilometers from Laguna, and he'll give a late night class on Friday, and then he'll go to there and he'll stay with the people till like midnight. He gives a class about 8, but because he only goes there once or twice a week, he stays with them and talks and discusses things and gets all of their issues out. And fortunately, his wife goes with him and she pinches him on the way back in case he's falling asleep. Because but I find that I can't do that. We can't all do the same things. We have to try to do the best we can. And that is why we may not be able to close all the holes of our body and stop the universal affairs, but we can at least do some basic things, like chant rounds, attend certain programs. If I was doing the Namhatas, then I wouldn't go to Mangalartik. If I'm going to Mangalartik, it might be difficult to do the Namhatas, and sometimes it's a little difficult to do all of it. But I think Krishna is pleased when you try to make the effort to do it. And so it's time now for all of you to become pure devotees and carry on here. Because you see, why did these people... Let's go back and look at some of the people, like you have Giriraj Swami, and you have Parthasarathi, and you have Bhakti Chaitanya Swami, and you have Jayapataka Swami, and Gopal Krishna Swami. Why are they so inspired to serve with undeviating attention morning, noon, and night? Why is it? Who knows? But why did they get this commitment? But beyond that, what was it that they saw? The Prabhupada himself had this kind of commitment. Prabhupada, even though he was the leader of the movement, he would wake up earlier than anyone else. When I would do the Mangalartik in Mumbai, I would go to bed about 10 o'clock and wake up at 3:30. I can't pull that off now. But I went to bed at 10. Prabhupada was translating books. When I woke up at 3:30 to get ready for the Mangalartik, Prabhupada was again translating books. And he must have slept somewhere in the middle of that. But he went to bed after I went to bed, and he woke up before I woke up. So he was so busy translating these. And then he would go on a walk in the morning, and we'd get to go with him, and he would chant very intently and talk about certain pertinent issues going on in the world at the time, like the war between India and Pakistan. And then he would answer letters, and he would chant rounds, and he would meet with people, and he would do more translating, and he would do programs in Mumbai. So we see the kind of dedication that Prabhupada had. We see, and he lived very simply. he would just have like a room in Mumbai. They built the nice rooms in Vrindavan and they built in Mumbai, but he was never actually able to use those rooms, was he? I think he may have transferred to there, but the temple opened after Prabhupada was gone. But Prabhupada pushed very hard to have these temples open. And it was 8 years afterwards that this temple was opened. But I wonder, where are some of the people who were here in 85? Maybe some of them have passed on and people came to visit, but there must have been more than 1,000 people when the temple opened. Who is here now that was here during that time? Only Ramanuja and Mother Radha Radhanath and Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. Anybody else around that was here in those times? Parthasarathi Goswami? There's those 4. Anybody else around that was here in that time? Do you know of anyone? Who was there? Who's there? Tribhanga was here in 85. And who else? Sri Hari was here. Were they initiated by Prabhupada? How many people from South Africa did Prabhupada actually initiate? But how many were there? There's Nanda Kumar and Gokulendra. And who else? Not Sri Hari? And who else was there? Priya Madunga he wasn't initiated by Prabhupada, he was initiated by Giriraj Swami. But who was initiated by Prabhupada? Who else? Others were? How many devotees were? There was only like Ramanuja and Parthasarathi and Rita and Pushta Krishna when Prabhupada came in 75, right? Gokulendra. Was that who was here? Gokulendra, Parthasarathi, Rita, Ramanujacharya and Pushta Krishna? Was Nanda Kumar around then? But he wasn't here when Prabhupada came? A lot of people came to see Prabhupada. But that's now like 48 years ago? So we have to carry on now. We be thankful that the gurus we've had, Bhakti Charu Swami is gone, but he carried on nicely, and so is Giriraj Swami and Parthasarathi, because when we had ones like Jayatirtha and Bhagavan, and they would kind of over-present themselves, whereas you see now, they don't do that. They don't ask their god brothers to worship them or players. They just try to serve Prabhupada. But in those early times, some of the gurus, boy, everybody had to think of them as like, they called Bhagavan the Sun King. Because he had lots of good things going on, but then when they were gone, it made a difficult point for the movement. So when you were here, like in the late 80s, would more people come on Sunday or less than now? Big 4 o'clock? Is that a better time than the 11? That was still during apartheid, right? How many people would come then? But you also didn't have Phoenix, or I think sometimes when I was here like 4 and 5 years ago, you'd get like 400 or 500 coming. We're getting now about 3? 3 come or 2? So by the time you serve it out, do 300 come? Yes? They do? So it's only a little less than before, especially because Phoenix. If 300 are here and 200 are at Phoenix, or even if it's 250 and 150, it's still almost the same number, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, because 85 is like, what, 40 years ago? And 75 is like 50 years ago. So many of those people may have actually passed on. So this is why we don't promote ourselves. We promote Prabhupada. You see, in the old days, Bhagavan built the seat there, and he would lecture from that seat. But you don't usually lecture from up there, do you, Jai Sachinandan? You're sure? You didn't want to go up there and give a lecture? You're sure? You don't want to take Tulsi down and you can go there? Anyone else? Sukumari, would you like to lecture from there? So now you don't see even Bhakti Chaitanya Swami or Parthasarathi, they don't go sit there, do they? They come and sit over here. So we see that we put Prabhupada in the center. We don't exactly have Ritvik, and we don't exactly have new acharyas who replace Prabhupada. Some people say like the certain Gaudiya Math and the Ritvik people work together, but this isn't possible because in the Gaudiya Math they get a new acharya, which wasn't what Bhaktisiddhanta wanted. He wanted a governing body. And in the Ritvik they only have Prabhupada. You don't have any acharyas at all. And if you have new gurus, but Prabhupada is the acharya, then you have ISKCON. So they're at either extremes of ISKCON, and you put the ideas together, you get ISKCON. Because Prabhupada is in the center, but you still have new gurus who give names to people and who teach them how to practice devotional service. But Prabhupada is still the center because he's the one that was predicted by Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya said that a Senapati, which is like a general, would come and deliver Krishna consciousness to the whole world. And it was predicted that this would happen. And Bhaktisiddhanta saw that this in Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says, I may be that person. He's not exalting it exactly. But we can see the mercy is in approaching Prabhupada, asking him to help us, asking him and asking Tulsi Devi to forgive us for our offenses. Because I don't know about you, but I'm full of offenses. Not fences, but offenses. And so we have to keep on in our devotional service, always revering the spiritual master and the great devotees. We don't try to pretend to go into Krishna's Leela. We try to serve these great devotees and put them on our head. Some people try to imagine that they're already a gopi, be like thinking, I'll serve the country, so I will go and become the minister of electricity. But they already have a minister of electricity. And that one may not be qualified, whereas the ones in Krishna Leela are qualified. So for us to just take a position of being in Krishna Leela when we're not there, we can't do like Dhruva Maharaj. We can't close all the holes of our body and and concentrate so hard that we affect the whole universe. But we can present the person who can, who's Srila Prabhupada. This is why we don't write our own book and distribute it. Sometimes different gurus and things will write books, but when we go out in the marathon to distribute books, we distribute Prabhupada's books, right? Not Giriraj Swami or the other ones. Those books are here in the temple for people who want them, but we don't put their books before Prabhupada, do we? They're not the ones we encourage everyone to read. We encourage them to read Bhagavad Gita, Science of Self-Realization. You still print a lot of the Ishopanishads? It's kind of a good one because it's a medium book. I think mostly now they either do small books or big books, don't they? They don't do as many medium books. They used to do a lot of medium books when the Krishna books came out in three medium-sized books, and they were 2 big books, because they'd go to a concert and a car would pull up, and I think they had an Ishopanishad too with 4 people, and they would have each one of them a separate medium-sized book, either that or a Nectar of Devotion. So they had like 4 or 5 medium books, and they'd hand them each one and ask them to give a contribution. And they would do those at concerts. A car would pull up, and they'd sometimes do the drive-in movies, but when they went to the scary movies, they'd knock on the window. That kind of scared people, you know. Whereas here, it's a little more difficult to do. Like when I would go knock on the doors, and I would show them the different sets of books. And I had the 25 Rand set and the 40 Rand set. Of course, the Rand was worth 25 times as much. So it was really like a 370 Rand set or a 600 Rand set. And I would show them these and ask them which one they wanted. So if I just did a few of each set, I collected a good amount of money. Just think if I did 2 400 Rand sets and 4 of the 375, that's like 2,300 Rand by today's standard. The Rand used to be worth $1.50 and now it's worth about 6 cents or less. 6 cents, maybe 5.5. So we revere Prabhupada as the one who is bringing to the people. When we are chanting the prayers about the spiritual master, we're not thinking of ourselves. We're thinking of Srila Prabhupada and the effort that he can do to spread Krishna consciousness. And that is why today, when we have the Guru Puja, we don't worship ourselves. Jai Sachinandan was singing Jai Sachinandan, but he was singing to Lord Chaitanya. And even if our name is Prabhupada Das, when we're singing Jaya Prabhupada, we're not singing to ourselves. So we put Prabhupada in the center. And we try to consider the projects important, like practicing Krishna consciousness ourselves, preaching this to others, making sure that the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, when they came in 2014, Johannesburg and Durban pledged a lot of money towards the TOVP. Did they live up to their pledges? Yes? How much did they pledge altogether? Could have been like a couple $1 million or 20 million Rand or something. 20 million Rand. And the Rand was 10 to 1 then. So something like 20 million Rand. That's a good amount, isn't it? They have any plans to do? There's plans already written up to build like a big hall down below and to do different things there, but is that too big of a reach right now? But it's more important to make sure you maintain what you have, because if you start asking people for that, some people may give the money that they give for maintenance for that. And if it's not enough and you can't complete that and maintain it, it's more important to make sure you maintain what you have. This is where Bhagavan would do, is he would borrow money, like there's no loan against this building, right? He would borrow money against that building, and he would build another building, and then borrow money against that one. But if you borrowed money against this, and then you borrowed money against the others, and tried to do a third one, and then you can't complete the third one, and you can't bring in the money, then you lose all of it. So it is more important just to maintain the things as they are, because there's no big debt here. You're not going to lose the building, you can maintain it. And it's more important to make sure what you have is maintained. It's like Prabhupada wanted us to expand. He says, but at least maintain what I've given you. So we have to think, even when we have big plans, you have to do like an organizational scan. We did that in Laguna. Some people said we should tear down the temple and build like a $2.8 million temple. But we figured we could collect $133,000 because we needed to pay off a mortgage of $70,000 and collect another $60,000 to fix up the building and add a few things. And we did collect $140,000. So we were 5% over. But if we had tried to do a $2.8 million temple, we would be 95% under. So it's a lot better to have 5% more than you need than have only 5% of what you need. So you kind of have to look at the things, maintaining the things you have. People aren't missing those because they're not here yet. But maybe if somebody gives an endowment and there's something to start those. But you have to be careful to make sure. The main thing is to maintain the devotees. I was talking with Sarup Damodar, and he says it's very important. They're working on the in-reach program of the people who've been here, but you don't see them around. There's a committee with himself and Smita Krishna and a few others, and thinking of ways to bring some of these people back around and stay in touch with them. Some of them are so long ago, and this was before computer things where you'd enter their name in. But if we can keep in touch with people and maintain that by giving them Prabhupada and by practicing to the best of our ability, we may not be like Prabhupada, but we can still attract people to come to Krishna consciousness. Any question or comment? Shall we end there then? Hare Krishna. Thank you all for putting up with me since I'm not such a great devotee. Hare Krishna.